Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Sens Nation podcast. And it's over. The playoff, I mean, it's not officially over, but it's over. The Sens are going to the playoffs. What a difference from the last time we got together, Greg. When we did our last podcast episode, they just lost to Buffalo. Some big games coming up, the Tampas, the Floridas, and all they did was roll through those three games, allowing one total goal in the process. Tampa 2-1, Florida 3-0, Columbus 4-0. And so, yeah, everybody's pretty excited here in Ottawa as the Sens get ready for a playoff spot, and it's going to be a fun spring. How are you today, Greg?
I'm very good, Steve. That was a really good game this afternoon. I turned down tickets to go see it, but it was a very good game. I enjoyed watching it, and now
Yeah.
they don't even have to win their next game. If Detroit loses tonight and the Rangers lose tomorrow, the Sens are in without even winning on Tuesday night in Columbus. But that would clinch it.
Yeah. It's not even worth even talking about anymore. It's happening. It would be the worst collapse in the history of sports if they didn't make the playoffs at this stage of the game. But the discussion needs to be had because as we flipped on the mics, I think they're through two periods. Detroit was leading the Florida Panthers. And right now,
Yeah.
Ottawa is potentially going to be, at the end of the day today, 2 points back of the Panthers for third place in the division. Not even talking about wild cards anymore. That's how good the Sens have been and how
Wow.
bad the Panthers have been. I think if they lose to Detroit, that'd be I think their fifth straight loss, and they're a banged up unit as well. But I put that out there on social media. I was amazed. Universally, Sens fans going, no, you stay right where you are in WC1. Thank you very much.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you want to see them get into third place? I don't think so. I think you get into third. I mean, assuming the Leafs are going to finish first, you get into third, you're looking at playing Tampa. I'm not too keen on that matchup. I'd much rather see them play the Leafs. I think we've discussed this enough that I think their best opponent is the Leafs. You stay where you are and hope the Leafs finish first, and I think you got a good shot in the first round against the Leafs.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those shows where I'm not certain if we've talked about something before because our last episode attempt, we had, I think in the history of the program, which is now going on 4 or 5 years, our first calamitous breakdown to the point where the show was lost. So we may
God,
be going over covered ground or maybe confused if we've talked about something before or not. So bear with us on that front. But I think the thing is, we don't know if Toronto's going to finish in first. That's what I want, though. I want that from an entertainment standpoint, a revenge factor. But I also think that gives them the best chance of advancing to the second round. So however that happens, like if Toronto drops out of first and ends up in second, suddenly third is what you want. So it
yeah,
all depends on the final couple of weeks here when you get down to it. But it's neat that they're in the playoffs. I think that's the big thing. And as I compared it today for Sens fans, it's a little bit like Andy Dufresne emerging from the sewer pipe at Shawshank and then arms in the air, gloriously looking to the heavens as rain falls beautifully down upon him. Freedom reigns. And that's a little bit how Sens fans, I think, are feeling these days.
yeah. And I think that don't even look at that. Don't think about first, second, third, wild card one. Just play good hockey, right? Just keep playing the way you're playing right now, and end up where you end up. Trust me, the players, the staff, the ownership, management, nobody is thinking about, okay, if we get this many points, but then we can't get that many points, we want to finish here. They're not thinking about that at all. They're just trying to get their own house in order and ready to go for the playoffs. And I really don't care who they play. I mean, yes, I would like to see them play the Leafs, and I think they got a best shot against the Leafs. But let's just get in and get in whenever, however. I don't care. Just get in. Right now, they're ahead of New Jersey now. Did you know that, Steve? On points percentage, they're now ahead of New Jersey in the East. So they're climbing up the standings, and why not try to finish as high as you can now?
Would you like to see a different playoff format, the 1 versus 8 scenario, to take away all these insane 2-3 matchups that are so close? I'm looking at West, for example. Colorado and Dallas look like they're going to have to play each other in the first round, which seems wildly unfair because those are two legitimately of the best teams in all of the NHL. Would you like to switch it up?
Yes, for sure. I just like okay, there's the argument that you got to beat the best teams. If you're going to win, you got to beat three teams, and then win a final. You have to beat four teams to win the Stanley Cup. So you're going to have to beat the best team at some point in time. But to have two really good teams play each other first round, and if I'm an owner of one of those teams and I lose in the first round, I'm losing out on potentially four more or three more home dates that I would have got if you had let me play against the eighth place team and I beat them in the first round. So that's the part that surprises me, is that ownership seems to be okay with this. Every year this topic comes up, we talk about it. Oh, it's got to change. It's got to change. Gary Bettman is steadfast. No, this is the way it's going to be. I have a feeling when Gary Bettman retires, that one of the first things that happens is we may see a change in the playoff structure.
Right. I'm okay with the tournament format, interdivisional, but not this hybrid wild card thing. To me, I'm okay with the playoff format, the 1/8 that you just talked about. But I'm also okay with the tournament format. There's value in that as well. You think back to the 1980s, right? Those Adams Division rivalries,
Yeah.
and they'd even hoist a banner for Adams Division titles and things like that. I thought that was cool. But when you're inviting, a non-division team in to try and compete for another team's division that they're not in, that's weird to me. So to me, I just want one or the other. They both have their strengths, they both have their weaknesses, but I prefer just to get rid of what they have right now. The wild card thing to me has never made sense. But we're getting off topic. We lost Sens talk, lots of Sens talk to get into here. And did you think in the Columbus game, because they come out of the gate and they scored 2 goals very quickly, chasing the opposing goalie from the game like 5 minutes in, did you feel like they kind of got a little, I don't know, it's party time, boys? Got a little cute out there? And then Columbus had, seemed to take things over late in the first period for a little while. Did you feel like they maybe took their eye off the ball for a short period of time in that game?
Not really. I think it was more a case of Columbus waking up. Columbus has been in a funk lately. They worked so hard and got themselves. They were actually in a playoff spot within the last 2 weeks. They got there and they've just been in a funk ever since. If they've had some goaltending this year, what kind of team they'd have, what kind of record they'd have. I think they just at one point halfway through the first period, Columbus started playing the way they're supposed to play, the right way, and started doing more of the right things more often, and created some chances for themselves. And it was fairly even there for about the last 5-7 minutes of the first period. That's the way I read it anyway. I saw it more as a desperation from Columbus. Their intensity was raised, their fight came back, and they kind of got themselves back in the game, or tried to anyway.
Yeah, I thought it got a little cute a little bit. I mean, that play where Stützle, after Zetterlund makes a nice turnover and gets the puck over to Stützle, he's got Giroux and he tries to make a clever little pass. I don't know, it just seemed like for a little while there in that game, to me, everything you say is true. Columbus did start to play better, but I felt like, in part because the Sens started go, okay, it's stat padding night. I feel like that somewhat opened the door a little bit too, but they got it done though. They righted the ship and found a way, and it seemed to be get off the Schneid weekend for the Ottawa Senators.
Mm-hmm.
So in the game on Saturday, that nice 3-0 victory over the Florida Panthers, you had Matthew Highmore get his first goal since January. And the first 2 goals tonight, Gaudette scores his first goal since early February, and Matt Palo scores his first goal ever. So I was thinking, Zetterlund's surely going to score here on get off the Schneid weekend. Not so much. Still didn't happen, but nice to see some of these guys, get their scoring mojo going. But Matt Powell has been really, really good, I think, lately. So it's good to see him get rewarded, because I think for a while there, because he's so new to the league and never knowing when he's going to get sent back down to the minors, I think he's too worried about making a mistake. Now, Greg, it looks to me like he's trying things.
Yeah, he's comfortable, right? He's much more comfortable. It's they always say when you're confident, you play better, and you maybe take risks that you don't normally take. Very, very solid defender. Played that way for the last month or so, or 2 months since he's been up, and now starting to freewheel a little and jump in. Like the goal, he drove the net, for crying out loud, without the puck. He didn't. It's not like he had the puck. He watched Stützle coming up the wall, and support was there on the wall, and there was an F3 high, and he drove down the middle lane looking for a pass, good for him. Show some imagination, some offensive creativity. And I thought the best thing, the whole fact that he scored the goal, the best part of the whole thing was that his parents were here. Like, that's got to be pretty cool. His parents are in town and saw him score. And yeah, maybe that's what he was waiting for. That's why he didn't score till now. He was waiting to show mom that he can really play in this league. Look, mom, I got a goal. I thought that was pretty cool.
I don't know that he's waiting half a season for that, but yeah, no, it's neat that his parents were there for that. And I've noticed it really, particularly in the last couple of weeks, that he's trying more things, with the puck, and he's a much better skater than I realized. He's jumped up in the play a few times and blown past guys. And because I think he was so conservative in the early going, some of his skill was hidden a little bit. When in doubt, glassing out, all the safe plays, chip it out here, chip it out there. Now he's creating things, and so far so good. I like what I see so far. And yeah, and then you mentioned Thomas Chabot had a fantastic game. Jake Sanderson, he's been rolling. Jake Sanderson has like 28 points in his last 28 games, somewhere around the Four Nations, just before the Four Nations, actually. Something really clicked for him after a sluggish start. And I'm hard-pressed right now that they've got the 6 in place right now, like that unit, which has been a sore spot for this team for a long time. You got to be feeling pretty good about it if you're a Sens fan rolling toward the playoffs.
For sure. Like that, Matt and Paolo, he really, you could almost say the injuries came at the right time. So there was an opportunity for him to get up here and play and not have it be like at the end of the year struggling to try to find a spot in the lineup. He came up with lots of runway left and established himself as an NHLer. He's very solid with Clevin. The two of them played together in Belleville, and they play very well together. The injury to Hamonic, of course, benefits them. I think in the case of Sanderson, started out like a house on fire, then went into a funk, and even he has admitted he wasn't happy with his October, November. But I think a large part of that has to do with the absence of Zub, who was out for such a long time. Now Zub is back. Sanderson goes to the Four Nations. That gives him confidence. His partner's here. He's solid on the ice, and his flair comes out again. He's not so tentative about rushing the puck or joining the rush or being involved offensively because he knows he's got Zub there to cover up for him, and his game's just taken off. Like I'm really looking forward to seeing what this guy's going to do next year. I think isn't he now caught Brady in points or darn close to it? That Jake Sanderson's producing at a really good clip here, points wise.
Yeah, he got to 53 points. I think he was held. I have to double check the score sheet. I think he was held scoreless today. Not sure. But
he got an apple on the last goal
after Saturday. He did on the empty netter.
Oh, yeah, won my bet.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's only a point back. If that's the case, then he's a point back of Brady Tkachuk right now, who he might be when Tkachuk is back in the lineup remains to be seen. But yeah, Sanderson now has 29 points in his last 29 games. Sorry, I missed that one at the end there, but yeah, he's just I don't know. It's something clicked around the Four Nations where his offense is really, really spiked, and that is good news as you move forward. But you talk about the playoffs, how valuable is Nick Jensen going to be come the postseason? The other 5 guys on that blue line have zeros on their career playoff games played ledger. And so you've got Jensen there he just missed the Washington Capitals Stanley Cup, joined them the following season and had some deep playoff runs, but just to have someone with a little playoff experience back there to lean on, that will be a huge asset come the playoffs. And Travis Hamonic is also around as well. He's got some career playoffs as well, even though I think that has he played his last game as a Senator, do you think?
Oh, I you know what? I think probably, although Travis Green has surprised us before. Like, would you really be surprised if game 1 of the playoffs, Hamonic's in and Matt and Paolo's out? It wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't be happy with it. I wouldn't think it was the right move. I wouldn't agree with the move, but I could see it happening. I don't think it will. I think Matt and Paolo's now established himself. More importantly, the Matt and Paolo Clevin partnership has established itself. That I think we're okay, that we're not going to see Travis Hamonic. I will admit I had to hold my breath a little bit there in the third. I noticed it live, and then they picked up on it and showed it in the replay. But the little headshot that Jensen took, was a little scary there for a second. He got hit right in the side of the head, and you could see his head kind of move quickly to adjust. And I'm thinking, oh, concussion or broken jaw or something. Thankfully, he was back out within a couple of minutes, but I held my breath there for a little bit.
Yeah, I think for the fact that Jensen has been dealing with something for months now, I think that's why Hamonic will probably play between now and the end of the season, just to spell Jensen. But all things being equal, I don't think that I don't think Matt and Paolo would be replaced at any stage, and particularly come playoff time. But yeah, Travis Green does his own thing in that area, so we shall see. And that leads us to our next question. Injuries. You've got Jensen dealing with stuff, and you've also got Brady Tkachuk, who missed another game, but they're winning. They won 3 games in a row now without Brady Tkachuk. Prior to that, they had lost. I think they were 0 for 4 without Tkachuk, but getting it done this week, which is good. What's the play? If Cousins comes back and Tkachuk comes back at some stage, what's happening? Is it automatically Highmore and Crookshank coming out of the lineup, and how much more time off are these two guys likely to need?
Well, I think Crookshank is the automatic. I'm not so sure about Highmore. The kid's showing that he can play and contribute, not necessarily offensively. I'm not counting on him to score goals, but does not look out of place. Plays a solid game. So I could see Cousins kind of flipping in and out, and I could see Highmore flipping in and out, and Gaudette, depending on how you want to handle that. I guess the easy answer is Highmore and Crookshank go out. Your third line is Gaudette with Cousins, your fourth line is Gaudette with Cousins, and who am I missing? Help me out. Is it still Gaudette on the fourth?
Yeah, I think it's Gaudette. It's got to be Gaudette.
Yeah,
is Amadio going down in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know, because then who moves when Tkachuk comes back? That's the other question. Maybe it isn't Amadio. I think the bigger question is, how healthy is Brady Tkachuk? They're never truthful when they tell you anything about these injuries anymore. It's kind of frustrating. I know we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, and you were of the mind that sit him now and make sure he's ready for the playoffs. And my thought was, let him play till you clinch a playoffs, then sit him and have him ready for the playoffs. Well, just due to this second injury that he's got now, he's been forced to miss games. So is it going to go on much longer? What kind of shape is he going to be in? Do you make the decision now to just leave him out anyway? Like, even if he's healthy, leave him out until very end of the season? It'll be interesting to see when he's healthy and what decisions made on him. I think Cousins may be ready to play before I'd want to see Brady back in the lineup. That's just my thought anyway.
Yeah, it's hard to even have a discussion about it without really knowing where things stand medically. What are the doctors saying? Is this something where if the playoffs started tomorrow, they could both slide in there, no problem? Then that's one discussion. But it's possible that both guys will actually need every minute of rehab and recovery time before game one, which would be somewhere around, I think the final game is April 17th. So call it within 2 or 3 days of that. Maybe the medical diagnosis is that, he absolutely has to stay out that long just to have a chance. So don't mess around with it until then. So I don't know if it's the nagging variety where he could play if they needed to, or if he's going to need every second before game one. So like I say, it's a difficult thing to have a conversation about without knowing all the details, but they're both surely, automatics to go back into the lineup. I'm guessing right now Tkachuk would go in and probably replace Zetterlund. And maybe he goes back down to the fourth line. Cousins would then go in and take the spot of Crookshank, which would give you a line of Cousins, Highmore, and Zetterlund. So that wouldn't be too bad either. So there's a lot of possible options there. But I'd be hesitant to break up the Amadio, Greg, and Pinto line, because they have been fantastic. They've been fantastic on both sides of the puck. So that's not one I want to muck around too much with, because that's been hot, that's been rolling, and but lots of potential options for Travis Green to work with. Let us take a time out on the program. When we come back, we'll talk about trivia, shutouts, playoff trivia. We'll get you the latest from the dressing room after the Columbus game, and we'll also look back on a very special weekend in the NHL where Wayne Gretzky's all-time goals record fell. Alex Ovechkin on Sunday afternoon became the game's greatest scorer. We'll talk about all of it after these words. With Celebrite, enjoy effortless, customizable lighting for any event, holiday, or special moment. Our energy-efficient LEDs blend seamlessly into your home and are easily controlled through our app on your smartphone. No ladders, no hassle, just year-round brilliance. Celebrite.ca. Greg, if I told you at the start of the year the Ottawa Senators would lead the entire NHL in shutouts, 10. You got their 10th on Sunday afternoon. What would you have said?
I would not have believed it possible. Not only did they lead the league with 10, Steve, that's the franchise record. They've tied the franchise record for most shutouts in a season. I would not have thought so, because it also seems like they get shut out a lot. Even though they went a fairly long stretch without it, then they seem to get shut out a few games there in a stretch. It's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. I never would have thought it would happen. How about you?
Not in a million years. You know, a franchise record.
There you go.
It's such a young franchise that every time I hear some of these records that are fairly underwhelming, I go, "Huh, that's all it is, huh?" But it is a young franchise, and it's had a lot of dark years in there as well. Like Jake Sanderson, for example, on Saturday, he set the record for most goals in a row at home by a defenseman with 4. It's like, that's it? Nobody else has done that? Anyway, that's how it goes. So I'm far more impressed, is my point. I'm far more impressed by the fact that it is the best in the NHL to have 10 shutouts right now. And that's there's so many good teams in this league, as we know. And the Sens, in the middle of a 7-season, 8-year playoff drought, to shake that off in a city that's got the goalie graveyard moniker. That team is the one that has not much long. Is it this? Maybe 2 weeks left, right? Yeah, 2 weeks left in the regular season. That they're the team that has the lead in shutouts. That's unbelievable, and that gives you a chance. You know, they're playing a lot better, obviously, as a team. That's night and day. But when the goalies are as hot as they are right now going into the playoffs, they really, truly could make some noise.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. The two Florida State wins, the game against the Panthers, the game against the Lightning, were goaltender wins. They were pure and simple, 100% the goalie won you the game. And that there's another one. Would you have thought that was going to happen at any point during a long dredge of the last 7 years? That was impressive too. The fact that they win games in a number of different ways, this team. And that's just one of the latest ones, is that a goalie steals a game for you. And if you're a good team and you're going to be a playoff team, there's going to be nights where, you're going to need your goalie to steal one for you. And it's just one more little check mark on the big board, or another benchmark on the road that says, yeah, this is a pretty good team. From top to bottom, first line to fourth line, top D to bottom D, and goaltending. It's all there. It's all a complete package. Now it's just a matter of this team getting older and more experienced and playing in more bigger games. And they're on their way, Steve. Dare I say it, the rebuild is over.
Ooh, it's been said. When was the first time we heard that? Like 4 years ago or something? Anyway, let us head to the locker room after the Senators' 4-0 victory. Wanted a win and a victory all in one there after the 4-0 victory over the Columbus Blue Jackets on Sunday evening.
You know, we said that most of the times you have to respond to a loss, but we had to have the mentality for this game to respond after a win as well and not take anything for granted. And then when the first period started, Gosselin did a great job of getting us going and scored a couple of huge goals for us to, give us momentum and then, play in front for the rest of the game.
Adam, how much does the team talk about getting the game's first goal? Your team has the best record in the NHL with scoring first.
I think it's always an important thing that every team talks about. You always want to get the first one, get that momentum. And I didn't know that, but obviously it plays a big factor. So, especially at home, you get that first one and the crowd's into it right away. And, getting one on the board first gives you a little swag, a little momentum to play with the lead.
Everyone's reaction to Nick scoring his first?
Everybody's pretty jacked up. I think we were on the edge of our seats a little because it kind of squirted out there, but it it was great to see him at the net front there. And just happy for him to get his first.
Commitment to checking, good goaltending. You don't get it without both of those, and so it's nice to see.
Yesterday, you mentioned that from day one, you could tell with this group that they wanted to win.
Mm-hmm. There's a strong possibility that Tuesday, if they win against Columbus, they're in. What do you think it means to this group to be so close to accomplishing the goal that they've wanted to do since the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I think it's very important to them, but it's, you go back to why you play the game. Every person that plays the game wants a chance to win the Stanley Cup, and that's why you play. Everyone lives a good life when they're in the NHL, and that's very nice. But at the end of the day, every person in this league wants a chance to win a cup. And, the first step is you got to make the playoffs to have that chance. And I know our group is hungry to have a chance.
So there's the latest from the locker room, and that courtesy of the Ottawa Senators YouTube channel. Some Sens trivia as we start to wrap things up. Our friends at Club EG have hooked us up with some great prizes. We have a foursome at the Marshes and a Club EG membership for new members only. We're going to draw for that later on this month. All you have to do is email the correct answer to our email address, which is sensnationpodcast@outlook.com. Very easy question, I think. Trying to do some playoff trivia because they're going, baby. In the 2017 playoffs, that was the last year Ottawa went to the playoffs. Yeah. One member of the Ottawa Senators played. Who is the member of that 2017 Senator team that most recently played for the Ottawa Senators? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. That's our question.
Who was the last player from that roster to still play for the Senators? Okay.
Correct. And not that roster. He had to play in the playoffs in 2017.
Okay.
Because otherwise Thomas Chabot would come up. He played one game that season in the regular season. No, he was a regular contributor in that playoff year, and he was the one who most recently played a game for the Senators. That's the guy we're looking for. So again, Sens Nation Hockey at Outlook.com. What do you think of Alex Ovechkin being the greatest goal scorer of all time as far as career goals? He passed Wayne Gretzky on Sunday afternoon. Speaking
of things you didn't think you'd see, I don't know that I really thought I'd ever see anybody break Gretzky's goal-scoring record. You stop and think about it, it kind of does make sense. You've had players who could have had more. If Bobby Hull played in the NHL and didn't jump the WHA, he would have scored 713. If Gordie Howe had stayed in the NHL, he would have had, I can't remember what the number is, but it's a heck of a lot more than his 802. So I guess if you stop and think, yeah, it should be broken. It could have happened. Jaromir Jagr could have broken if he would have stayed in the NHL. But did I still think it was going to happen? I didn't think so. Because really, you're looking at 20 years of 50 goals, basically. That's hard to do for a man of his age to still play, to still be healthy, no injuries, no major catastrophes, not 4 lockouts. It's impressive, very, very impressive. And we've seen 2 guys now. We saw them start, and they're going to see the end of their careers. 2 guys in a row who've broken this record. That's pretty impressive. I don't know whether that means we're old or what it means, but we watched Gretzky from start to finish, and now we're going to watch Ovechkin from start to finish. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah, and that puts us in a unique sort of situation where we can fairly judge the greatness of each player. And I guess it's about how you frame the question. Like, do you say who's the greatest player of all time or who's the greatest goal scorer of all time? In either case, who is it for you?
It's neither. The greatest goal scorer of all time is Mike Bossy. There's just no question about that, Stephen. We all know that. No, and there, you want to talk about ifs? I mean, yeah, but that guy stayed healthy. He would have blown that number away, no problem. There's your prime example of how health plays a factor. Ovechkin is definitely a pure goal scorer, while Wayne Gretzky has scored lots and lots and lots of goals. He's not thought of, nor was he ever thought of as a pure goal scorer. Yes, he had 92 one year. I'm not taking away from that. Ovechkin is more of your stereotypical goal scorer. He's a finisher. He's more like Curry is closer to Ovechkin than Gretzky is to Ovechkin when it comes to scoring goals. Gretzky's a playmaker. Gretzky's an offensive juggernaut. He's a point-producing phenom, but not a goal scorer, not a pure goal scorer to the extent that Alex Ovechkin is. But I think you think Gretzky's the bigger goal scorer, don't you?
Well, yeah, and certainly I don't put Bossy in the discussion with either player. The thing with Bossy is part of it is longevity, and the guy smoked through his whole career, and it was inevitable that he'd have the slowdown that Gretzky did. And they their timeline was not far off each other. I think Bossy entered the league 2-3 years before Gretzky, and Gretzky's first 8 years were insane as far as goal scoring goes. And no one at any point in there said he's not a goal scorer. No, they said for all of those 8 years, he's the greatest goal scorer we've ever seen, unquestionably. But in the second half of his career, yeah, he became more of a setup guy than the goal scorer, and wasn't exactly a physical specimen. Was never like a robust sort of a player or a physical player in any way, shape, or form. That's part of what makes Ovechkin so great. And the Russian machine never breaks. He's had a couple, even earlier this year, he went knee on knee with a guy and everybody's like, what? That guy never breaks. But, part of his deal has been, longevity and consistency. That's all been great. But I just can't ignore those first 8 years and dismiss them as though he's just a playmaker, because he had like a couple of 70s, a couple of 180, a 92 goal season, and, a bunch of 50s in there as well. So, no, I think it's, with due respect, it's ludicrous to call Gretzky anything. He's also a great setup man, but he's also right there in the discussion as greatest goal scorer of all time, in my opinion. So,
well, stats don't lie.
I'll leave it at that. Yep, they certainly don't. They certainly don't. And we know that Ovechkin's never going to. He'd have to play another 20 years at the rate he's been going assist-wise.
God,
to come even close to Gretzky. Yeah. That might be the most unbreakable record of all time.
Oh, yeah. The Gretzky assist record and the Gretzky point record will never be broken. But here's one. Where's Ovechkin going to finish? How many more goals is he going to score? He's obviously going to get to 900, right? But can he get to 950? Can he get to 1,000? Could you imagine that? I'm going to say somewhere between 925 and 950, I think, is where he finishes. But who knows? He might prove me wrong. What do you think?
Yeah, he's going to score as long as he's around, because what he's doing now isn't reliant on being crazy fast or crazy, physically fit. He's not slowing down, and his game doesn't need to be blazing down the wing and everything. So many of his points and goals are coming on the power play or, just setting up shop. What his great knack is to just sort of lie in the weeds and then sprint to the net at exactly the right time to do his damage. And so I think it just comes down to how much longer does he want to play, because I think there's a team that'll have him, whether it's the Capitals or somebody else, probably for another 5 years.
Well, he plays another 5 years, he'll get to 1,000.
I believe you're right. And with that, let us call it a day. Yeah. With that, let's call it a day. We appreciate you being here, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget that our website is sensnationhockey.com. And as well, we want to call your attention to the Hockey News Ottawa, thn.com/Ottawa. And our email address is sensnationhockey@outlook.com. Don't forget about that trivia question for Club EG goodies. Greg, enjoy your evening, and we'll look forward to talking to you again in our next episode.
And our next episode will be playoff bound, buddy. Can't wait. See you then.
Love it.